true crime podcast where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow, and we're in Held in Captivity month still.
Yes.
Rough month. I will preface
one of
this.
the worst.
Yeah. All the trigger warnings apply, even though, well, I'll explain it. They still apply.
And we talked about this case a little bit beforehand because I think we probably watched this documentary at the same time.
We both watched the same thing, yeah.
Without realizing it. But heavy on
domestic violence and mental health. So the trigger warnings on this are going to be child sexual assault, child abuse, domestic violence, mental illness, and diminished capacity, like intellectual disability and stuff like that. So if any of those things, like you're not up for that today, please click away.
Yeah.
So I want to start with the perpetrator first, and there's a reason I'm focusing on the perpetrator in this, and that reason is the family of the victim has not given a lot of information and doesn't plan to. We're going to respect that. We have her name and age, but that's about really all we have. And we have a little about what happened to her after this incident, but still we're going to go light on that and just give the bare bones.
Yeah.
So his name is Nobuyuki Sato, and at the time of the kidnapping, Nobuyuki was 28 years old. He was born in 1962, and I tried to find his month and day of birth, but I had no luck whatsoever. And there were then, when I did find a date, it was conflicting, but the year was always the same, so I'm going to leave out his birth date and birth month, and this does take place in Japan, just so you guys know. I usually try and look at court records, but obviously I don't speak Japanese, and so I can't. I mean, I could look at them, but I don't know.
It's really hard to get like a PDF translate.
At any rate, his father was a chauffeur and had wealthy clients who had quite a bit of money, and he had previously had a family with 5 children and a wife, but his wife passed away, and I guess all of his children aged out of the household, and so when he met Nobuyuki's mother, and then they had children, he was 62 and his mother was 36. And, you know, usually when you're an adult that far into adulthood, age gap relationships aren't as big of a deal, at least not to me. But I still think there was a power dynamic imbalance in this relationship, given what we know later.
Okay.
So his dad built a new house in the Niigata prefecture in the town of Kashiwazaki for his new wife and son. And I am so proud of how I said all of those.
I'm proud of you too, because I was like,
hot damn. It flew out. Listen, I listened on Google fucking Translate for like...
It's so hard.
Yeah, I went in the mirror and said it with a crazy face. I sang it, hoping it would help.
Good for you. Good for you.
I just don't want to be insulting.
I know. Me too. So
he built a Western-style bedroom on the second floor for a nursery. So basically what I mean by this is in Japan, bedrooms are typically very small. And I guess he just wanted the best for his son, so he built like a really big bedroom. I don't know why bigger is associated with better.
Well, and a lot of Japanese styles, at least traditionally, you don't have like a bed. You have like a mat that you roll out.
Tatami mats.
Yeah, so you like make your bed palette every night and then put it away, so you don't need a very big room.
That's right.
But Western civilization, our Western cultures have big furniture and they're statement pieces.
Yes. And typically like heirlooms and shit like that. And that wasn't a thing in Japan as far as like bedroom decor went. But I'm just pointing out there's some cultural differences I think are important that play a role in this case, and that is one of them. So it was built with love to nurture a child, but its purpose would become much darker later. When it was time for Nobuyuki to be in middle school, he really started to struggle with his mental health. He told his mother he was too scared to be in school, and his mother took him to a mental health hospital where he was diagnosed with germophobia. And this was something his father had also. Neighbors would recall that his father would be out like washing and rewashing the family cars, and he was always very neat and tidy in appearance. The home was very, very, very clean because that's what his father demanded of his mother. And he was not a particularly warm or caring man. He was very cold. The mother is later diagnosed with mental health issues, and I don't know what those are, but it is mentioned she is of diminished capacity. I think she may have been suffering from some intellectual disabilities. And so that's what I mean by the power dynamic in this relationship.
Have utilized that.
Yes. And I'm spitballing here, and I don't want to speculate too much. But given how things go and how Nobuyuki treats his mother later,
Right.
I think he learned it somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. So germophobia is the first diagnosis. He's later diagnosed with other things, and we'll get to that. And this is very severe. Like he is really hung up on cleanliness and stuff like that. He was bullied pretty badly in high school, despite being tall and broad, which made him, upon first glance, intimidating. He was extremely shy and very soft-spoken. He had a feminine voice, is what's implied. And I'm not going to say the names the kids at school called him because they're slurs. I'm not even going to say the Japanese word for it.
Right, that documentary that we watched, the guy just like
Problematic.
says it.
It was problematic
And I was
as
like,
fuck.
"Oh, you did not like."
And I will be honest, I only watched 5 minutes of that documentary and then went and got my information elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because I did not like the tone in which it was represented. So I'll not be including it in my sources because I don't want to give this person a bad name.
Good for you. Good for you on finding other things because I just watched it in passing.
No. So because of how shy he was at school, he had no friends and didn't really want any. And he also had no outlet for all of his frustration and his rage, and he took it out on his mother and father. He would rant and rave at home. All the while, his frustration and anger were just building. He isolated himself, shutting himself up in his room, and that was it. He would also, like, if his dad came home from work and had even a speck of dirt on him, he would threaten to disown his own father and make his dad, like, take off all his clothes. And, like, why? And you might be asking, like, why would parents bend to his will? Well, he was violent.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Frog in me throat. He was extremely violent and extremely verbally abusive. This was their only child, and it was clear from the beginning they were intent on spoiling their child.
Right.
And I want to take an aside and talk about this for just a minute, about the idea of spoiling a child.
Yeah.
So what do we mean when we say we spoil a child? Right. Meaning we give them material things in excess, or we give them excess attention. They can do no wrong. They're never punished. But I got a hot take on this one.
Okay.
You ready for it?
Yeah, I was kind of just like, all right, let's go. Let's see. Let's giddy up. Let's see what you think.
So after I determined that spanking my children was just abuse and I quit, I also determined that punishing my children was pointless.
Right.
It didn't teach them anything. It made them frustrated with me and angry, or it would make them scared, causing them to be dishonest.
Right.
So I read a book, and I can't think of the name of it now because this was like 15 years ago, but I read, not that long, it was a while. But I read a book about punishment-free parenting, which is where you just talk with your kid.
Right.
I don't consider that spoiling.
No, not at all. That's being a normal human being.
So we removed punishments and instead would ask questions like, why couldn't you live up to my expectations? Like, what about this expectation was hard for you?
Right.
And in having these dialogues, instead of punishment, we just found out that, well, because I have a neurodivergent son, my youngest has autism, some things he just wasn't understanding. He just wasn't making connections. And so then I'm glad I didn't punish, because it would have been punishing a mental illness and a disability.
Right.
And we don't want to do that.
Right.
Giving your kids tons and tons of gifts if you can. I don't know. I've never experienced that in my life.
Right.
I grew up with quite a bit of privilege. And as far as material things went, I didn't want for much. I don't think it spoiled me.
Yeah.
Frankly. Maybe it's because my experience afterward was so harsh. But I think showering your kid with love and affection and gifts, if you can, isn't going to make them do the things this guy did. And
I really do think it involves in It has a lot to do with the undertone and when the gifts are given and how they're given.
Yes. I think there's nuance here.
And children watch you when you're out and about and you're talking about people that you see on the streets as you're driving in your car and you're talking about the people that you see. They're picking up on that, and that's how they treat other people as well.
Yeah, I think if you can shower your kid with gifts, attention, and affection.
As long as you treat everybody with kindness.
Exactly. And I think that was missing.
Yeah.
I think as far as if you instill a feeling of entitlement and superiority in your child, that's spoiling your child.
Yes.
And that's harmful.
Yes.
And I think that's what happened here.
And manipulating them with gifts shows them they can manipulate other people around them.
I agree with you 100%. And so I think I just want to put that out there before we go further.
Right. Because people do throw around the term spoiling your kid.
Permissive mother, that kind of shit.
Right.
And we ain't about blaming the mom on this one. And we'll get to that.
Honey, no.
After high school, he didn't fare much better. He went to work at a factory making auto parts. And he had a really hard time getting along with his coworkers because of his eccentricities. His mental illnesses made working in the factory extremely difficult, and he was often in trouble with his boss. He also had some odd, I call it antisocial behavior. He had a citation for public urination, but really what tore it for him is one day on the way to work, and he walked through a spider web, and it disturbed and triggered him so much he had to turn around and go home, and he just said he was not going to work anymore. And a lot of people want to point this out as some kind of black mark against his character.
That's his mental illness. That's
his disability, and we're not going to do that. He needed to be on assistance and be getting help. He didn't need to be pressured into working, but that is what happened.
Right.
So it wasn't long after that he left his job. He was never able to return to employment. Culturally, it's important to note how Japan handles work life. Japan does not have what's called a firing culture like the United States does. So you can go to work and screw up big time, and they will work with you to keep you. Lifelong employment is a huge thing in Japan. And I didn't know this before starting this research, and I find it interesting.
It is interesting. I don't know if I'm
I'm kind of for it, because it fosters like a relationship with your work. I think that's more healthy. Always being afraid you're going to get fired is not a good motivator.
Girl, every job I've ever had.
You have been fired
literally
every time.
There's one that I turned in a 2 weeks notice. But who gets fired? I mean, I'm sure people on here have gotten fired from Starbucks, but not many people have gotten fired from the Starbucks that I went to. Yeah, that was the only one I put in a 2 weeks notice on.
Wow.
And that was it. All my other jobs have been like, you know what? Fuck you. And I'm like, you know what? I already said that. That's probably why you're firing me.
Man, I've never been fired from a job, but I have quit epically every time. I really just fuck everything up when I quit because I become the indispensable miracle employee.
Yeah.
I burn out and I ghost.
See, this is the difference between a Virgo Cap dominant and a Scorpio Cap dominant.
You're just like, what is happening? And I'm just like yeah, it's very funny.
Fantastic. We're not made for the real world.
Oh, no, not at all.
No.
So Japanese work culture stresses balance, like working well in a group, harmony, attention to detail, and punctuality. Clearly, Nobuyuki had a really hard time working with others. He struggled with being punctual due to his mental health, and while he wasn't fired, he had to leave his job for not being able to perform well. Japan, like the US, does have a disability program, but I know it's a point of pride to be a hard worker in Japan, and this caused a definite rift in his family life with his father and his mother. They constantly put pressure on him to get a job, and I do think that was a mistake. I don't think he was able to work.
Right.
At age 19, after a bad argument with his mother, Nobuyuki set fire to a Buddhist shrine in the house, which got out of control, and it started a pretty huge house fire. He was taken after that to a mental health hospital after this incident and diagnosed with severe OCD. He was given medication and therapy, and it took a month to stabilize him before he was released to go home. And, I mean, I think OCD is pretty obvious. But I want to make sure that we do talk about mental health. And usually our perpetrators have mental health issues.
That's usually why they're perpetrating, you know.
But I want to make it clear, mental health does not make you a perpetrator.
No. Because I don't think a single one of us is neurotypical.
No,
between the two households.
I have ADHD and OCD and depression have all been diagnosed. PTSD and CPTSD. It's a lot of letters. And I've never wanted to hurt anyone, really.
Yeah.
So, and I'm untreated. I should be in therapy and on many meds.
Yeah.
But the point is that when you let mental health go untreated, untalked about, stigmatize it, this is what happens. This is a result of not being able to get help and not be treated. Yes, he was medicated, but after he left the hospital, he doesn't go back.
Well, and this is also decades of mental health going untreated because his father obviously kind of passed the torch on from
absolutely
to the son.
His mother had problems too. And just the whole family is extremely dysfunctional.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, pride will stand in your way.
It absolutely will. Stigmatization, again.
Right.
So after being on medication for a while, Nobuyuki expressed interest in wanting more independence. I mean, it says that in all the articles I read, and I'm not sure that's what he wanted at all. I think he wanted to be left alone by his family, especially his mother, who I think he felt was overbearing. He wanted to build another addition up there so it could be like an apartment, so he basically would never have to go interact with his family. He really was kind of a shut-in person. He was just too triggered by being around other people with his OCD to be comfortable with others.
Because he thinks about all the places that each person has gone to, the things that they have touched, the transfers of,
it is very distressing.
I understand.
I do.
I have anxiety, so I understand.
But he was also engaging in some like really bad self-medicating behaviors. He was betting on horse races a lot, and not, of course, with his money. He was also really obsessed with Japanese celebrities, like young women. Like, this is his day. And I don't think that the upstairs was all about his independence. I think he was planning. And it doesn't say that in any of my research, but given what we know from Ariel Castro and Kenneth Parnell, they planned this shit. They obsess over it and plan for years, and I think this was part of his plan. Yeah, even at 19.
Yeah. And the next case that I'm researching right now, it's a lot of planning, and you see a lot of them like mirroring what they see in culture.
Yes, absolutely.
In either books, movies, anything that they see.
Yeah, he definitely was planning, in my opinion. Unfortunately, fortunately, like depending on how you look at it, the room never got completed because he couldn't tolerate the construction crews in the house because of his OCD. And he tried to do it himself, but just wasn't skilled. And so the room kind of remained half completed. And God, it just had no purpose, basically.
Right. It was like, wasn't it like the room that kind of burned with the altar kind of like had to get fixed up a little bit, and they just kind of added on or something?
No, they had made an addition on the house when they got it. They had fixed up after the house fire, and then this was a completely separate addition upstairs next to his bedroom.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay, I thought the add-on was because of the fire.
And part of the way he got his mother to agree with this is that he said he would get a job. Well, he did not get a job.
Oh, good.
And so she refused to pay to have it funded to be built or fixed anymore. So in 1987, Nobuyuki waited outside of an elementary school and followed 4 young girls. He picked one of the girls to follow more closely when she left the group. And when she walked by a vacant lot, Nobuyuki grabbed her, dragged her off, and tried to sexually assault her. However, another young girl walking by saw him grab her and told some older students. And then someone from the school office was told, and they showed up and basically stopped him and like held him down until police got there. And this is where I get pissed. He was arrested and charged with and I can't fucking talk today. Something's in retrograde.
I know.
I swear to God.
It's been me all day.
He was arrested and charged with an attempted indecent act. 2 years passed while he awaited trial, and during this time his father passed away. I mention it. I think it escalated his behavior.
Yeah, he no longer had that restriction of his father's eye.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to please his father, and his father wasn't there to be scary and intimidating.
Right. A lot of people want to say like, oh, he was so upset and so distraught. No, I think it was the reins were let off.
I think that it's likely a contributing factor to his father's decline was his behavior.
Probably.
It was very shameful.
Yeah, especially having to go to court for 2 years. That would have been the family's full focus.
That's their life. That September 1989, he got a 1-year suspended sentence. I want to say something about the dates really quick. So I had several different, including Wikipedia, I had many articles, and even that documentary.
Right.
And I'm going to tell y'all, the dates change.
Yeah.
So if my dates are wrong, it's because there's just no... I picked the one I felt was most consistent with the story, but the year could be 1980. It could also be 1990, and I just don't know. So, I mean, it's possible this is 1990. He received that suspended sentence. And this is what pisses me off. The court ruled that he was unlikely to reoffend. And I completely fucking disagree with that.
How could they just...
Sex offenders always reoffend.
Yes. And how could you just be like, oh, I stalked a girl off of a playground and tried one time, and that was the only time for me.
It's an aberration. He'll never do it again. Fuck off. And they remanded him to his mother's custody in lieu of parole, even. He should have at least been on parole, but no. And they told her she had to do a better job bringing him up.
He's already brought up.
He's like 21, 22.
He's done been brought.
I think he's much older than that, actually. I think he's like in his 20s.
He's in his mid-20s.
Yeah, cool to know.
Oh, my God.
Why are we always blaming the women, y'all? And the moms and the wives? Why are we blaming them? She didn't do anything. Okay. As Nobuyuki became more withdrawn from people, he took his anger and frustration out on his mother. He frequently beat her and used a stun gun on her. He brutalized his mother verbally and physically. And y'all, she just didn't sit there on her hands. She called the mental health hospital on him on 4 separate occasions, and no one did anything. She said he was dangerous, she was in fear for her life, that she was basically a prisoner in her own home. So when people blame the mother in this case, I get really enraged because she was scared for her life.
Yeah.
He was a very big man. He was atypically big for a Japanese man.
Right.
He was heavy and broad, and he just pummeled her and beat her.
And she's required by the state, by
the time of the kidnapping. She is like 73 years old.
Well, and he has to be in her custody. Like, she's, you know what I mean? Like, she can't get away from him. She is forced
proximity with him, ordered by the court.
Yeah.
He is her entire responsibility, and she cannot physically handle him.
And how many head injuries does she have?
A lot.
Exactly. Because is he the first one to lay a hand on her?
I doubt it. I mean, I think he continued what his father said. But that is speculation. I'm just going to make that clear. I'm speculating on that. Many in the town would later say they thought she was too permissive and spoiled him, but she was just terrified of her own son and did whatever she could to placate him so he wouldn't hurt her. She had the fawn response, which is very common.
Yeah.
I hate this narrative. It's literally in every single, I think it was even in the Wikipedia. I'd have to check again. But like, this narrative is spouted in every article, every video on this, and it really disgusts me, and it's unfair. The blame lies solely in the hands of the perpetrator.
Yeah.
On November 13th, 1990, still under a suspended sentence, Nobuyuki took his mother's car for a drive in the small town of Sanjo, which neighbored the town he lived in with his mother. At 5 p.m., he saw 9-year-old Fusako Sano. And this was a crime of opportunity if you read the articles. They will say that it just so happened. Okay, no, this is a man who never went outside unless it was to bet on horse races. Yeah. He didn't leave his house. He didn't talk to other people. He wasn't known for going around joyriding or anything. He also had a knife with him. And duct tape. I think if you got that, that's a rape kit. You are prepared.
Absolutely.
He is looking for the opportunity.
Yeah.
This isn't a crime of opportunity. He was looking. Yeah. He was out hunting. He was trying to be a predator when he saw her. I mean, he was looking for a child by herself. I think that is the sole reason he went on that drive. And I would guarantee you he'd been on the drive before. This is his MO. This is how he operates. And I'm shocked that all the coverage of this just says that, oh, he just happened upon her. He didn't plan it. I think the room was a part of the plan.
Does anything in his psychopathy say that he just is by the side the
seat of his pants?
He's
not an impulsive person.
No, he's not impulsive whatsoever. He is a planner. He has OCD. Like, he is obsessive over things.
He had obsessed about this plan, I guarantee you, since before he was even out of high school.
Oh, probably.
Yeah. Makes me mad.
I know. It's they want to give them a little bit of leverage, and that's why.
Yeah. He saw a little girl by herself and pulled his car in front of her. He then got out of the car brandishing a knife. He told her to be good or else while he grabbed her, and he threatened her with the knife. Now, sources, again, keep saying how it was a crime of opportunity, and he shoves her in the trunk of the car. She is so scared she can't move.
Yeah.
He tells her to come with him, and she literally can't move. She is so afraid. And that poor little thing. He picks her up, shoves her in the trunk of the car, and then he goes driving for a bit, just kind of aimlessly. That's what it said. I don't think it was aimless. I think he drove somewhere more secluded. Because what he does next is pull over, opens the trunk, and he ties her wrists and ankles with duct tape, and he blindfolds her with duct tape. I think that was purposeful. I don't know why they said it was aimless. I think he drove somewhere secluded.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be witnesses for what he was about to do.
Yeah, because he couldn't do all of that right there where he grabbed her. He had to just get out of it.
It was right in the middle of the street near a baseball stadium. Of course, a baseball field stadium is not the right word because this is a small town. So, and I keep going back to why was he carrying a knife? I'll be fair, y'all. I do carry a knife. Like if I go out by myself at night,
I
which
totally
is
have
rare.
one. But do
I have
I
a little
know
knife
how
in
to
my purse.
use it?
I'm
not very.
This is a very American attitude too. I don't know how Japan treats like weapons, but I don't think it's common.
Yeah.
And I think he had that 4-inch survival blade because he wanted to kidnap a little girl.
Yeah.
Oh, it just makes me so angry.
Well, it's definitely not for hunting.
No.
That man is not going to hunt.
No, he is not. He, outside freaks him out. So he drove to his house then, and instead of using the front door because he didn't want his mother to see, he used the entrance on the addition, the unfinished addition, and he put her in his room, and then he came back out and he went in through the front door so his mother wouldn't know and wouldn't be suspicious of him. He then went back upstairs and took off Fusako's blindfold, but he left her tied up. He told her she had to behave or she would end up like other kidnapped little girls, and he said he would kill her. He also told her she would never leave that room again. He told her if she ever tried to escape, he would kill her and either bury her in the mountains or put her body in the ocean. She is 9. She is terrified. And I'm going to talk about her a little bit. From all accounts, she had a typical upbringing. She lived in this small town, which is kind of idyllic because everybody knows everybody.
Right.
She was a good student. She was just your average elementary school kid. She had just been to a baseball game and was walking home. This was the norm at the time.
Yeah.
Kids would walk home, bicycle, or take public transportation to and from school and extracurricular activities without adult supervision. And we're talking all kids.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Nobody walked their kids to school. This is not a thing.
And the older kids looked out for the younger kids.
The neighbors watched.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't unusual for her to be walking home by herself then.
Right.
Usually in the small towns like Sanjo, all the adults are always out looking and checking on the kids.
Yeah.
But not on November 13th. There was no one around, no witnesses when Nobuyuki pulled his car in front of her and drew a knife and carried her to the trunk of his car. And you have to know this happened in seconds.
Yeah.
He was very fast. So I just get, because people will want to blame the parents on this one too. And I'm like, no. Why? You should, and the thing is, my kids should be able to walk anywhere they want and not be bothered.
Absolutely. I got to.
And yes, I know we need to be preventative, but we need to stop this rhetoric and focus it entirely on the perpetrator.
We need to be preventative when we put someone, when we throw charges on someone and they just let them drop. You know what I mean? Like, we need to actually.
Why
press
is it
charges
that
and
it's all
actually-
on us, the victims,
Yeah.
to protect ourselves, and they won't keep them in jail?
Exactly. Y'all keep letting them out.
So don't tell me what to do or where I shouldn't go at what time.
Or
Do
what
your
to
job.
wear.
Do your job.
Yeah.
Change the laws.
So fucking pissed.
When Fusako didn't arrive home that evening, and it was about 2 hours later that her mother got worried, she immediately called police, and a search was immediately underway. The first day of the search, police gathered 100 people. The second, they gathered 200. Over 20,000 missing persons flyers with her face on it were spread throughout the prefecture, but leads were few and far between. The case went on to generate national attention, and soon the police were overwhelmed with false leads. Lots of people came forward claiming to be the abductor. And of
so
course,
weird.
y'all, this wastes police resources and time. Mm-hmm. You know I'm ACAB.
Yeah, but that's
But
so
for fuck's sake, they can't even do their job because people keep calling and going, oh, I did it, or I found her.
Yeah.
We see this all the time in abduction cases in particular, and I don't understand the mentality behind doing this. Like, okay, I guess you want to be picked. Here's your attention. You should go to jail for that shit.
Yeah, you should get picked for something else. I don't know. Get a hobby.
For real.
That's not
Get good. Like, stop.
Yeah.
It is widely believed at the time that Fusako was taken by North Korean operatives. So there were like people from North Korea there kidnapping Japanese girls and taking them back to North Korea. I'm not sure why. I tried looking for more information. I'm going to guess sex trafficking or other nefarious purposes because North Korea, bad. Very bad. And once they're there, it's almost impossible to retrieve someone who's been taken there.
Yeah.
And so the police were pretty convinced that's what happened to her, given that there were no witnesses. And this part is going to make you mad. Police did question sex offenders, but for some reason, Nobuyuki's name wasn't on the list.
Oh, because he didn't like.
No. It was technically on the list, but there was some kind of clerical error. So when they went to look, he wasn't.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's frustrating.
And he was literally never interviewed by police for the kidnapping, ever. They never suspected him.
That's frustrating.
For the first 3 months of her captivity, Fusako was tied by her wrists and ankles and not allowed to move around on her own. She was fed only once a day, usually a meal of instant noodles or leftovers from dinners cooked by Nobuyuki's mother. There was no bathroom upstairs, so she was forced to put her waste in plastic bags and cups, which he would throw away. Nobuyuki violently threatened his mother to never come upstairs. He had his mother so terrified of him, she claimed she never did. And I believe that she never went upstairs.
Yeah.
But I don't believe she had no idea that he was keeping a girl up there. And we'll get into that later, but I wonder how culpable we should hold her. She had diminished capacity due to unnamed mental health issues and was absolutely, abjectly terrified of her abusive son. And when she called for help, nobody came. So I'm not sure how culpable she is.
And we don't know like what her idea was of their relationship, because I know a lot of times, especially like growing up as a teenager, I'd be snuck into my boyfriend's rooms, or you know what I mean?
If she's never up there, she knows a girl's up there. She doesn't know the age.
She could just think that it was consensual or something like that.
I doubt it because all the screaming. I mean, we'll get into that.
Oh, that's true for it.
Yeah. But it's important to note that when you reach out for help as a victim of domestic violence, you receive nothing in return and no help.
Yeah.
And you get ignored. It completely erodes your trust in authority. And then you just don't fucking bother.
Right.
So I think she thought, well, if I go to the police with this and they don't do anything, he will kill me.
Absolutely.
He might kill the girl too.
Absolutely.
Ugh. After the first 3 months, Fusako was untied. She was told that should she set foot outside the room, she'd be violently murdered. He made sure she believed this by practicing martial arts on her until she screamed and cried in pain. She had to promptly answer him when he called her, or he would beat her or use the stun gun on her. When she got off the bed and he caught her, he would beat her. He started making her record horse races on the TV for him, and if she failed to do so, he would beat her. Malnourished, with atrophied muscles from having to stay in bed or tied up all the time, Fusako said she never tried to escape because she just gave up and accepted her fate.
Yeah.
She felt she was too physically weak to make it out of the house, and she was terrified he would kill her. In order to keep suspicion low, he made her wear men's clothes. Usually his, but sometimes he'd shoplift things for her to wear, and the only female clothing she had was underwear, which he would shoplift. He also cut her hair very short, and she was only ever allowed one bath in the 9 years she was held in captivity. Now, I want to point out that I saw many different versions of this part of the story. It was said she was allowed occasional baths whenever his mother would leave the house, but only then. But I had one article insist it was only ever one bath when she had fallen once and gotten pretty dirty, and he was disgusted by it, so he made her take a bath.
Right. I do wonder about his cleanliness.
I think they mean like a full bath. I'm pretty sure she probably got sponge baths. That's what I would guess.
That would make a lot of sense, honestly.
You know, with buckets and water and stuff. At any rate, she's not really particularly clean. She is very malnourished. She is weak. Her existence is just pain and misery.
You said 9 years.
9 years. Jesus. Fusako started using the stun gun on herself. She said this was to get used to the pain since he liked using it on her so much. She was trying to desensitize herself. And I think that is so pitiful.
It's sad that was something that she felt she needed to do.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It was hard for her to walk because of her muscle atrophy, and this caused extreme pain in her hands and feet. She was severely underweight and would often faint from malnutrition. Through the door... See, can't talk today. Fuck off.
Me. I know.
Though the door was frequently left unlocked and open, she was too scared at first to attempt escape, and by the time she said she felt less scared, she was just too physically weak to do it. Mm-hmm. At first, she was only allowed a radio to listen to, but during the last year of her captivity, she was allowed to watch TV. That's when she recorded the races for him. It's clear the mother had some idea that Fusako was there. She heard her screams, and when Fusako started her period, it was the mother who bought the feminine hygiene products for her.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why police were never convinced that she didn't know, even though she claimed.
Right.
And I agree with the police on this one. But does it matter? Like, what's putting her in jail going to do? That's not something she would have done had she not been under duress, is what I'm saying.
If she tried to move out of the house, she would be doing something illegal.
Leaving him behind. He was remanded to her custody.
Yes.
Yeah. I think his mother knew, but she was his prisoner too. And like I said, it just reminds me of Ariel Castro.
It really, really does. It really does.
He used terror to control both Fusako and his own mother, and she did whatever he asked so he wouldn't beat her and scream at her.
Right.
I think it's pretty sad.
I think he held them both captive at the same time.
Yes. Because he used his mother's money. He had a motivation for her not leaving that house.
And wouldn't he use her car and stuff like that?
He used her car frequently.
Because that wouldn't be his car. He doesn't have a job.
No, he doesn't have anything. Right. During the 9 years she was held in captivity, Nobuyuki was never suspected. There had been no witnesses to Fusako's abduction and no leads that weren't hoaxes. Nothing. It was just like she vanished into thin air. Her case went cold almost immediately, and pretty much both her family and authorities assumed she was dead. To note, there was a police station literally across the street from Nobuyuki's house. That's how bold this guy was. She was 33 miles away from her home. It would be ultimately Nobuyuki's mother who brought authorities into the house that would save Fusako from her captivity. And this is a brief aside, and it's something I think about a lot, especially when we do cases like this, in the House of Horrors cases. Right. Is how many houses do I drive by?
Every time.
And I look at them and the yard is nice and there's cute decorations outside or a Christmas tree in the window around Christmas time. And I wonder how many of those are people held there against their will, either due to circumstances or nefarious purposes. Mm-hmm. Because if you had driven by my house in Tulsa, you'd have never known me and my kids were being abused in there.
Oh my God. I think about all the houses that I was abused in and you would never know.
By looking.
At all. At all.
And I wonder how much of a silent epidemic it is.
Right.
It's just something I literally think about all the
because,
time.
you know, a lot of us are forced to be silent in
Yes.
those situations.
I wasn't really allowed to have friends or go anywhere. I was financially abused, so I didn't have any money. And it was just me and my kids stuck in the house day after day after day after day.
Right.
It was awful.
Yeah.
All during Fusako's captivity, Nobuyuki's mother called the authorities on her son's violent behavior towards her. She called the mental health hospital that had treated him before, and largely she was ignored. She made 4 separate calls. The last call she made, I guess, finally got through to them. She was terrified. They had just had a terrible argument, and he had beaten her pretty badly. So on January 28th, 2000, 7 officials from the mental health hospital showed up at their home. And they wanted to talk to him, but he was upstairs, and she told them, the mother told them, hey, you can't go up there. He will hurt you.
Yeah.
So they hollered for him. They didn't get an answer. So like, fuck it. They go upstairs and they open the room and he screams at them, what are you doing in my room? And he goes fucking batshit apeshit on them. He is like thrashing and punching and screaming, and he's just out of his mind. And so they give him a sedative through injection after they all have to hold him down.
Yeah.
He's in bed when they do this. And he finally falls asleep because of the sedative. And it's only then they notice the blankets moving, that there's someone else there.
Next to him?
Next to him. And when they pull back the blankets, they find Fusako.
She's so little.
She's tiny because she's malnourished.
Yeah.
Immediately, police were called, and Fusako, extremely underweight and dehydrated and jaundiced, was taken to the hospital. Though she was in fairly okay health considering what she'd gone through, her mental health was really bad. They said she behaved like a child even though she was 19 years old. She had severe PTSD. In all my research on this, it never explicitly states that she was sexually assaulted. Not in anything I've listened to, and not in any article I read, and not in the wiki. He was never charged with any sexual assault. However, I think it's safe to assume she was assaulted given his previous encounter with a girl the same age.
Right.
I think that was the entire motivation behind kidnapping a child, was because he's a pedophile and a sadosexual monster.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just the stigmas.
I think it's part of it, and the need for privacy, so I'm not going to delve into that much. I don't have any details anyway, and that's the only speculation I'm going to give.
Right.
Nobuyuki was taken to a mental health hospital, and he waited there several months in order to be fit enough to stand trial. So they treated him for his mental health issues, and then he was brought to trial. And he was charged with kidnapping and sentenced to 14 years in jail, which is literally the maximum sentence in Japan for that crime.
14?
Only 14. Should be there for the rest of his life.
Oh my goodness.
His mother was never charged and maintained that she had no idea that Fusako was in the house. No one believes her, including me. But I do think it's fine that she wasn't charged, given her situation. She was also 73 at the time that they found
and
Fusako.
So beaten.
And just so beaten down. We know very little of Fusako's life after her ordeal. She moved in with her family and made a full physical recovery. It is said she had a hard time making friends and thus is a bit kind of a shut-in. She enjoys digital photography and long walks. She's a fan of soccer. The family has never done an interview on her kidnapping and will never do so. That's going to be why we don't have much information on her. And I think that's fine. That's her prerogative.
Yeah.
I believe we should respect it.
1,000%.
But I find, like, with the Steven Stainer case, is like, we just think we want this beautiful, happy ending. He came home a hero, right? He saved that little boy. He was so brave. But his life was just so tragic after that. It's kind of the same with her. There was this pond her and her father liked going to, and it really helped her in her healing. And he drowned in that pond in 2007 in front of her.
My God.
And I just want, all I want for her is just healing and peace.
That's so devastating.
I just can't imagine what all she'd gone through and like what the family has gone through. And I really wish that, I don't know, that maybe the universe would just give these people a fucking break, you know? It just makes me sad. Nobuyuki was released from prison after serving his time in April of 2015. He served 11 years. 2 years later, he was found dead in his apartment. He was only in his 50s. And I can't find a cause of death anywhere in this. And I really looked. But given that there was no investigation following it, I'm going to guess it was either suicide or natural causes and leave it at that. I don't like to speculate, but those are the options we have. It clearly wasn't murder.
Right.
And if it was, then no one cares to investigate it. So that's...
They were like, well...
Due to his name not being on the sex offenders list, the police chief at the time resigned from his position because of that oversight, because they received so much criticism.
Wow.
Yeah, they would have found her had he been on that list,
And
is what everyone believes.
He said, you know what? I fucked up.
Out I go.
Yeah. And you know what? I don't want to fuck up again. So I'm going to go ahead and go and let somebody else take over.
He sashayed away.
My God. Do you know how... Oh, the amount of police departments in this goddamn
They just
country.
fuck it up, and they're just like, I'm going to stay here forever.
They're like, you know what this means, boys? We get a month-long vacation.
That's not what that means.
That's what they get
cunts.
every single time they kill somebody. They get a month-long vacation. Paid vacation.
Then right back at it.
They get to murder someone, and
Or
they
ju-
get a vacation.
It's just when
I haven't had a vacation.
Oh, I've never
It's
had a
not-
vacation.
It's not fair.
No.
It just makes me mad.
Who do I gotta kill to get a day off?
This is a murder podcast. We probably shouldn't.
No. But I will tell you this, y'all, that I had a day off there for a minute, and I didn't handle it very well. Do you remember? I was just like, I'm so nervous. Why am I so nervous? Why can't I relax? Twitch, twitch, twitch. No sleeping. And I was like, you know what I need to do? Work myself to death.
It's like whenever you're like, you're an not that I've ever experienced this, but what I imagine, it's like being in anti-gravity and then and feeling like you're falling because you need that gravity to support you. You're like in the anti-stress.
I'm held together by work.
Stress the fuck out.
If I'm not working, you know what I'm doing? Thinking.
Thinking about work?
Not about work, thinking bad thoughts. The bad thoughts come. The brain weasels are here, and they're just intrusive. That's what I call them. Just intrusive horror thoughts. So I'm just like, I'm just going to work until I fucking collapse.
Oh, I just can't stop thinking about cool ideas.
I wish I could stop fucking thinking about cool ideas.
If I had all the money in the world and all the time in the world, I could do all this cool shit, but I don't at all.
No. Have precious little. Yeah. And I'm tenaciously clinging to it by the skin of my teeth at all times. Ooh, but without that high pressure, I think I'd literally dissolve. Yeah. Like the Wicked Witch when you pour water on her.
I don't know what to do.
No, speaking of work, girl, you better work. That's what I say to myself every day. And I've made a lot of soap.
Yeah.
Listen.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Patreon.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm excited about my soap because I've just made a whole bunch of new soap.
That's right.
I made the most bougie smelling soap in the universe.
It does. It smells like a fancy store.
You smell it and you're like, this smells expensive.
Like I shouldn't be in here.
I'm too poor for this soap.
That I'm going to look at that price
me.
tag and the lady's going to come up and be like,
Or the worst is when you go, okay, so I went to San Francisco in my early 20s, and I went into this really swanky shop, and I'm looking like a crusty goth mess. And I'm in there, I'm like, hey, what do I want to buy? And I was like, why doesn't anything have price tags? I asked the clerk, and she went, you can't afford it. And I was like, well, you're probably right, but that's very rude.
because everything costs more than your car.
Yeah, this purse costs more than anything I own. And me, frankly. And so that's what this soap smells like.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah, it really much.
It's a combination of fragrant English roses and oddwood.
Odd.
I may be saying it fucking wrong, but I am from Arkansas and it's not my fault. Anyway, all my soaps will be up probably by the time you listen to this. Maybe, probably not. Next Monday. So keep checking the link tree if you want to buy some soap. Yeah. As for our Patreon, this is a little business time I snuck in there at the end. Huh? Did you like the way I got it in there?
Don't do that hand motion in real life.
It's like I'm, doing the fisting hand motion, which isn't a fist when you start.
Please teach everybody how to fist.
Okay, here we go.
No.
Oh, don't call me. I'll do it. Anyway, don't punch someone's vagina or asshole.
Don't
You gotta
clench
start.
your knuckles. Don't go in flat knuckle first. Are you fucking...
You know, work your way up.
That's like
to the whole
saying,
hand.
hey, give a blowjob, and then you go down there and go...
You go, I'm just gonna blow on this dick.
Don't. They might be wearing headphones. You don't know.
No. Oh, sorry. I blew on you. I apologize. It was bad radio. But yeah, don't punch someone's parts. That's rude.
No.
Look up some porn first. If you're confused, I'll stop.
Watch the girls do it.
Yeah, watch the girls do it. Don't watch a man do it. They're just gonna ram it in there.
No.
That's and lube is your friend. Yeah. So back to Patreon. Fuck. My brain is a dead hamster just spinning on a wheel.
Today is really hard. I don't understand.
We're having a hard time. I'm so stupid. Patreon, good. Yes.
Good,
if you want to see photos of this case and all of our other cases, that's where we keep them so we don't get zucked and sent to the shadow realm. We can put as many photos as we want, and it's not behind a paywall. All of our picture posts are free to the public to look at because we didn't take those fucking pictures.
No, we stole them.
So why would we get money for it? That's dumb. Yeah. Also, our case notes are there, and any documents I find pertaining to any cases, although rare, I do find them sometimes, and I include them.
We have a $1 tier that is mostly for ad-free listening. Occasionally, you'll get
post-case discussions,
just ad-lib kind of discussion, or just like we'll catch you up on our life, or
a little more casual
talking, just this talking, a spilling the tea,
just a little talk.
Yeah. And then the $5 tier is an extra episode each week, and then we have the $10 tier, which is the $5 episode plus an additional handwritten letter
and a gift.
Everyone.
Yes, and the gifts are a surprise. Yeah. But previously we've done wax melts, stickers, fucking cool rocks. Perfume.
I have tiny bottles. I'm making terrariums eventually.
This month's prize is an acrylic pen with our logo, and they're very nice and very cute.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So, you didn't tell me that. That's great.
I've shown them to you and gave you one.
Oh, you said pen, and I was thinking pen
you wear on your clothes, not what you write with. Yeah.
No, it's great pen.
They're really fucking
it's
cute.
Really well made too.
Yeah, I don't buy crappy merch. That's not what we do.
It's great.
Yeah, but that's just a cute little gift from us as a thank you for being our patron, and a letter.
Seal envelope that's very satisfying.
Oh, it is very cute. Mm-hmm. Yes. So yeah, and now we've started adding video to our Patreon as well. Some of the and that's the tease will be video. I'm getting ready to do a little documentary in town that I'm going to narrate. So that stuff is for patrons.
Yep.
And other than that, me and Maris write books. Go read them. Sample chapters are for free. All the links are there. And if all you can do to support this podcast, or all you want to do is listen, we appreciate you and love you. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Find us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/Cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.